Hello everyone, it's Yusuf from Crafting Clouds, and in today's video we're going to cover an exciting customization walkthrough that is quite popular, which is being able to send out automatic email reminders to your customers for estimates that you have initially sent out for their approval. As you know, in QuickBooks, this is not a native function of QuickBooks. So in today's video, I'm going to walk you through how you can develop this in Method CRM to accomplish this goal. So let's go. All right. So what I've created for you guys is essentially a blueprint, a visual map of what you should be looking at and what you should be building in order for you to create the email automation inside of Method CRM. Now, these are the steps that we're going to take, and it's important that you follow these steps in this particular order because each other component relies on the preceding component in order for you to continue and create the full automation. So the automation at the very end, which is going to be a daily app routine, is going to be the very last piece that we do. We have to put all the pieces together first before we start connecting everything together with this automation. So let's focus on the first part. We're going to go over this visual map, and then we're going to pivot into Method CRM. And I'm going to briefly show you what I've created, and we're just going to go over what the things to consider and go behind the scenes so that you can follow along. It's not going to be that thorough, but it should be able to cover the general idea and a good layer of understanding so that you can go ahead and you can do this on your own. So let's begin. So the first thing I want to look at is this create table section. So the very first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to create these two tables right here. So you have the estimate reminder schedule and the estimate reminders. So the estimate reminder schedule, think of it as like a preferences table, a meta table. This is going to be the table where you're going to put in your preferences for how many times you want to have a reminder sent out. So it could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 5, as well as what are the email templates that you want to associate with each reminder, and at what number of days after the original approval email was sent out do you want to have your following reminders to be sent. So as you can see, I have days after as one field, and then I have email template as the other field. So this is all you really need, 2 fields, and these fields I'm going to show you, this table I'm going to show you in a preferences area, in your estimate preferences area, where you're going to see this fully built out so that you can go ahead and you can manage this reminder schedule on your own. This is how you should be, building in Method CRM. Something that's scalable, try not to hard code anything. If there's a chance for you to just build out a preference area for your solution and for you to manage it on the front end, that's the ideal scenario every single time. Now, the next table that we want to look at is the estimate reminders table at the bottom here, okay? So this estimate reminders table is actually going to be showing on the estimate itself. And you're going to have a toggle on the estimate to either turn on or turn off the reminders. So that gives you more control over, do you want to have reminders sent out for this customer or do you not? Your sales rep is going to have a better idea, or if you're the one who's handling sending out estimates, you're going to have a better idea of who you're going to want to send out the reminders for without annoying them. So that's why you want to have that toggle on off option. So this table is going to appear on your estimate screen, and it's going to automatically populate with reminder dates as well as the statuses. Now, these statuses are as a drop down. Okay, and maybe we should go over each one of these as to what field type it should be. So this would be a drop down, and the 3 values in this drop down should be not sent, sent, and canceled. Okay, your reminder date is a date field. Your days after is an integer field. Okay, you could do a decimal field if you wanted to say I want to send an email 1.5 days after, but I really don't see the use case for that. So an integer field should be enough for a number of days, and you just call it days after. And then your email template, this is going to be email template drop down. So this is going to be a drop down field, and this is going to be based off of the email template table in Method. So this is where you're going to go ahead and you're going to create your reminder email templates on this next step. When you create those reminder email templates and you name them, those names are going to appear within this drop down within your estimate reminder schedule. So that's what that's for. So I hope so far this makes sense. So if we continue along to the next step, as I said, we're going to create reminder email templates. Now, depending on how many reminders you plan on sending and whether or not you need different templates for each stage of the reminder cycle, for lack of a better word, you're going to want to create the matching number of email templates. So let's say you wanted to create 3 email reminders for each of your customers after you've sent out the initial approval email for them to review the estimate and approve. If they haven't approved the estimate, so you're going to do a check to first see if the estimate has been accepted already. If it's not, that's when you're going to go ahead and you're going to run these reminders. And we'll get into that later when we get behind the scenes with the logic. But you're going to want a reminder template for each number of reminders that you create. And each reminder template can have its own body copy. So you can say a different thing within each one of your templates. If you say at the very first one, hey, we noticed that you haven't, made a decision on your estimate yet. Would you like to reach out? Would you like a phone call, or would you like us to reach out to you to discuss any questions that you may have around the quote that we've sent you? Reminder 2, if they still haven't responded, you can say, hey, we noticed that you're very, very busy. We'd be more than happy to get on a call, blah, 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 blah. Reminder 3, you get the idea. Okay. So you're going to create the reminder templates. Then the next step is creating the screens. So when you're creating the screens, there's 2 screens that you're going to be creating. Now, one of them is actually you're updating the estimate screen. So this one right here. So you're just taking your estimate screen in Method, that Method gives you out of the box, and you're going to add a reminders toggle. And this reminders toggle, when you turn it on, it's going to stay on. And it's going to map to a field in the reminders table. In the estimates table. So that when it's on, that toggle is mapped to that table to know, okay, because this is set to true, we want to make the reminders on the estimate appear. But once you turn it on, you don't want to turn it off because you want to retain that history of when you go to the estimate in the future at a later time, you want to be able to look at, were these reminders sent? If they were, what were the actions? Were they sent? Were they not sent? Were they canceled? You don't want that ever to be hidden ever again once you turn it on. So you want to also put in that logic for that. And we'll walk through that as well. Then a very, very important part, because you don't want to piss your customers off, is you also want to create an opt-out screen. Now, the opt-out screen should be available within the customer portal. So you're going to want to go ahead and create a separate screen that is set up for guests only, that it doesn't have to be, you don't have to give access to it from within the portal, because the way they're going to access it is through the email template. So when they click the opt-out button, it's just going to take them directly to the screen in the portal. But you don't actually have to go into the portal and build an area for you to access the screen, because this screen should not really be accessible unless you wanted to approach it differently, which is also an option, where you take them to their profile in the customer portal, which Method already offers you. And you'll notice in Method, there's already opt-out checkboxes for both marketing emails and billing emails. So you could actually go ahead and you can add a checkbox there as well to say opt out of reminder emails, and you can just guide them to their profile in the customer portal. So that's another option that you have. But for the sake of this video, we're just going to go with just a generic opt-out screen. It's very simple, and it's just going to take them directly to them with no access any other way but through the email template. Then finally, what we have is the automation. Now, this is the engine I like to call this like the reminder system. This is the engine. It's a scheduled app routine. And for those of you who don't know what a scheduled app routine is or what app routines are in Method, it's a very powerful automation tool where you can set up a set of logic that is tied to a specific app. Okay, so in this scenario, it would be our estimates app, and you'd be able to trigger this set of logic within any screen within this app. So you can manually call it from within any screen, which is awesome because then you're not duplicating your efforts. You're creating one set of logic and you're able to point to that logic within wherever, whichever screen you would like within the estimates app, right? Which is awesome. You don't have to redo your code again. But the real power of this is when you schedule the app routine. So for us, we want to schedule this app routine to run on its own. We don't want to have to manually trigger this. We just want it to run. We want it to run on its own every day at midnight, for example. So you want it to go ahead at midnight, compare the day that you're on, the current day at midnight. The system's going to say, okay, this is the current day I'm on. I'm going to go through my list of reminders that I have set up for me that are not sent yet. They're in the not sent status. And I'm going to compare the current day with the date that we have set, right, in this table, this estimate reminders table below, right here, right? So this estimate reminders table on the estimate has a date here. So we're going to compare the current day within our scheduled app routine to this day. If there's a match, if it's the same day, we're going to go ahead and we're going to trigger off that reminder that was set for that particular day. Okay? So that's the power of the scheduled app routine, and it's just going to completely run in the background, completely hands off, and it's really, really awesome. This is where, it's really taking your reminders automation, and it's really making it a true automation with this particular component. So now let's go into my demo account. Now, just as a premise, I just want to premise you by saying this is strictly a demo account. I did not thoroughly customize this. I just wanted to quickly draft off a prototype to show you guys the direction you need to head into when you're creating this. I have done this for many of the business owners that I work with for them, and it's fully functional working. They love it. So I did refer to that, but I wanted to show you guys this in my demo account. But I didn't have the time to go into full detail of making this fully functional. But we are going to go behind the scenes. I am going to show you some functionality in the front end, as well as go and do a deep dive with you on the back end for all of the components that we just called out in that map that we made in Canva. Okay. So we're on our estimate screen. As you can see here, this is our enable reminders toggle. And let me zoom in a little bit. There we go. Enables reminders toggle. Okay. So this is for an estimate for Dodger Inc. Okay. And right away we enabled, as the sales rep, I decided I want to send out reminders to this particular customer. And it is going to run off of, first it's going to find which email, so the email that was sent out to them to review their estimate for approval, it's going to track that. And it's going to say, okay, this is the date that email was sent. Let's go back to now our estimate preference screen, our logic, and let's look at how many days after we need to schedule out these reminders. So you'll notice there's already reminder dates that are already populated here, okay? So you have March 20th, March 25th, and April 5th. So these are, today's the 15th. This is 5 days after. This is 10 days after the approval email was sent. And this is 21 days after the approval email was sent, assuming the approval email was sent today on March 15th. You'll now see that I put these little status symbols here. So this is just to indicate that, visually that, these reminders are in progress. They haven't been sent yet, but they are queued up. Okay. Now these status symbols will change and they're mapped to that status dropdown that I showed you in Canva. So this is just an extra field that you can build. You don't have to do this. You can just have the status dropdown, but I like to go a little bit, further and add a nice touch, to this visually to make it look a little bit more professional. But you can go ahead and you can just have it set to the status dropdown that we discussed in the Canvas screen. So this is the reminder schedule. So how is this generated? By just turning this on, right? Now, what was it looking at? Well, I'll take you there. Okay, so I'm going to go to our dashboard. I'm going to go and I'm going to click this ellipses and go to our preferences. So this is the screen right here that we created, okay? So we're going to go to the reminders option. This option was not originally here. We had to build this option in the screen. This estimate preference screen is provided to you out of the box by Method, but we had to add this option here. And now you can see our tables here. Look, 5 days after, 10 days after, 21 days after. We've even put in the templates that we wanted, okay? Now I can go ahead and I can add another one for 26 days after if I wanted to. And I can go and I can create another estimate reminder template. Again, the only reason why we have estimate reminder 1, 2, 3 is because the body copy within each one of these email templates are different. But if you're going to be sending the same email over and over again, you don't need to create separate email templates. You can just create one and have them all mapped to that same reminder template. So all of these, for example, could just be set to reminder 1. The system will know at that particular date that was generated to grab this particular email template, okay? And we can go ahead and we can add one for 26 days after the initial approval email was sent out. So I can go ahead and I can say estimate reminder 1 and just hit save all changes. That's it. So this is a really cool way to manage your reminder schedule from the front end without you having to go into the background and change your logic or anything like that. This is how it should be set up. Now, before I go any further, I did realize I did skip an important step, which was to take you to the tables that make up of this reminders schedule, as well as the other table we saw right here on the estimate screen, this other reminder schedule. So 2 separate tables. So let's go to that. So first one is, let me take you to the preferences table first. So this table is that preferences screen that we were just on. It shows days after. The type is integer, okay? We're also doing email template right here, right? So this is the email template dropdown. As you can see, look, it's based off of the email template dropdown, okay? And I accidentally clicked the hyperlink. So right here. So if I open this field up, look, field type dropdown, the table name is email template, the field name is name. So we're now relating an existing table that Method offers you out of the box to our custom table. Then we also have the preferences method field. This is very important, and I didn't share this with you on the Canva map, but this is a very important field. You have to have this field in order for this to work, and it's very simple. This is basically just telling us that this table belongs to the preferences overall table for all of Method. The ID for the preferences table will always be 1. So what you're going to have to do is when you first create this table, if I go, actually, I'll show you what I mean by this. So if we go back to the estimate preferences screen, okay, there is a hidden column here for the Method preferences table, and it's set to 1 by default. And I'll show you how I did that. I'll customize the screen. Actually, I don't have to edit it. I can just scroll down. Where's our reminders? Right here, reminder schedule, okay? So this is the grid. I used an editable grid. You have 2 grids in Method, a standard grid and an editable grid. I chose to do an editable one. I do grid. This is the table that we just created that is based off of. We're doing display all. We're allowing you to add another schedule. We're labeling the label, add schedule into 1. All right. For styling, I'm hiding the view selector. I'm showing a delete row column. So that way, if you want to remove a reminder, you can. But then on the columns, you'll see now you'll have the days after, the email template, but you also have the preferences method. Okay. Now, I've set this to the screen active record ID. I explained this in a separate video, so if you're not familiar, I can link the video to the description below, so you want to understand what a screen active record ID is. But when we built our preferences screen in Method for this reminder table, it is based off of the preferences method table. So therefore, I'm setting the default value to the preferences method dropdown to the same value that the screen is based off of, which is going to be 1. All right. I know that's confusing, but let me try to help you with connecting the dots here. But before I do that, let me go to our columns and let me just show you, our view, and go to our columns here. I hide the preferences method dropdown. We don't need to see this. This is just something that just needs to populate in the background. And again, the reason why we're doing this is because it's important when we're creating this table that we're relating it back to the preferences method table, because that's where it belongs. Okay. So to show you the screen again, let's go back to the screen. Oh, we're actually in the screen. Oh, me. What am I doing? We're actually on the screen. So this is the screen that we built. We updated. This already exists. We just added this reminders area here. This screen, you don't have to do anything, but just to connect the dots for you, when you go to this little page icon on the top right here, you'll notice the table that the screen is based off of. Every screen is based off of a table in Method. The table for this one is the preferences method table. So that's all we're doing is we're setting the screen active record ID, because the screen active record ID is the record ID for the screen. And we're saying, make the screen record ID the same and populate it automatically in the dropdown for us within that preferences method dropdown. And when we click save, that way everything stays intact. It's related to the preferences method table and you're good to go. Okay. If you're still confused by what I said, it does take a while for you to grasp. It took me a while to grasp. Feel free to reach out to me, and you'll see my email address and my website if you want to book a free consultation below. We can talk about this in greater detail. I'm more than happy to walk you through this again over the phone or on a screen share. Also, please, while I'm bringing this up, feel free to like and subscribe down below as well. I would really, really appreciate it. It really helped me boost my content, help the YouTube algorithms to push my videos out there. Okay, so going back. So now we understand that we needed to create that one table. Now let's go back to our tables and fields, and let's go to the other table, which we see right here. Right? So this is the table that we also need to create in tables and fields. So let's go back. And if you're not sure where to access tables and fields, click your profile icon, go to account settings, and you'll see tables and fields right here. And there you have it, all your tables and fields. This is where you're going to create your table. So this is where you start to begin to create your new table and create your new fields. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to go to our estimate reminders table. So this table is a little bit bigger because it's going to carry more information for us, which is important for data insight. When you're creating your tables, you want to have the foresight to understand what relationships do I want to create in these tables so that in the future, if I ever want to report back or seek out further data insights, those relationships are already set up for me and they're already there, which is great. I don't have to do the work again. So to walk you through it, I related the activity table. And the reason why I related the activity table is because when we send out a reminder, we're also going to log an activity for that reminder that's being sent out against that contact that we sent the reminder to. But we also want to get that log and we want to track it against the particular reminder record that it was for. That way, if we want to report in the future, maybe you want to see a report of all your reminders and what emails were sent out. What were in those emails that were sent out for all those reminders? This is how you set it up. Now you'll see we have our contacts. This is the contact that we're sending the reminder to. The estimate that the reminder is based off of. So for a particular estimate number, you're going to want to be able to relate the reminder for that estimate back. So you have that relationship. This is just an audit field that automatically gets generated for every table, so we can ignore that. Same with the record ID. Then we have the reminder date. So these were those dates that you saw on the estimate, right? When we saw those dates, Those were dates that were automatically populated when we toggle that reminder switch on, that points to that preferences screen to pick up the days after. It grabs that integer and it adds it to the current day of when you toggled on that reminder. And it outputs that future reminder date for you in that table. Then you have the reminder type. I didn't show this, but this is something that you can also do to display whether you want to send out an email or an SMS. So you could do both in Method. But for the sake of this video and trying to keep it short, we're just doing email for now. But this is a drop down to basically have those two values of whether or not you want an email or not, or SMS reminder. Then you have that status drop down, which I showed you, which is just the not sent, sent, and canceled, which is a drop down, which is hidden for us on the estimate screen because I use the status symbol screen. Okay. So the status symbol is very easy. You can go to Emojipedia. That's where I like to go. And you simply just copy and paste. Look, so I can just copy this and I just copy this emoji and I just paste it into a text field on the table, and it automatically refers to that emoji. That's it. It's very straightforward. So that is the build out for your for both of the tables that you need for your reminder automation. You have all the types here, so feel free to pause this video, look into the types I used, and if you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to me. But moving along, now that we've set up all that, let's look at our email templates that we created, okay? So let's go back to our dashboard, okay? And you're gonna find your email templates within your Send Email app. So I have it collapsed at the bottom here. Now you can choose to move this up if you use your email templates often. Since this is a demo account, I don't actively work in this account, it's always collapsed. But there you go, I just moved it up so you can see it. This is how it may look for you in your account if it's not collapsed. So let me just finish this. And let's edit our template. So click this Edit Templates button right here, okay? So you have to go ahead and you have to create these templates. This should be the next step that you do after you've created your tables. So we're gonna go in and we're gonna name these templates. So we got Estimate Reminder 1 right here. So this is an estimate template that I created, right? That basically sends out an estimate. This is reminder 1. So the copy for this is going to be different than my reminder 2 estimate right here. So as you can see, the copy for this is completely different. Now it has both a view estimate button as well as an acknowledge and opt out button. So if you click the acknowledge and opt out button, you're giving your customer a chance to say, I don't want to receive these reminders anymore. Stop spamming me, which is very important. You want to give them easy access to that. And I'm going to do a quick demo of what this will look like at the end of this video. And then you have this view estimate button, which is simply when you click it, it's going to take the customer directly to their estimate in the portal for them to review and for them to either accept or reject. Okay. Now, when they accept and reject, you do need to build out logic, and I forgot to mention this in the video. When they accept and reject the estimate, you do need to make sure that if you already have your reminder, estimate reminder records that we saw in the estimate screen already created with those pre-populated dates, you want to make sure you update those to canceled, because you don't want them to continue to receive reminders for estimates that they've already accepted or rejected. Now, the way I made this email template, I mean, you can go ahead and you can create a standard one. This is very simple. You just go to ChatGPT and you say, hey, create me some HTML code, make it nice. This is the color hexadecimals I use for my branding, for my company. And this is the body copy that I want. And ChatGPT will output an HTML code. All you have to do is click this ellipses icon, click the code view here, and just simply remove whatever you don't see here. If you're creating a brand new template, you won't see anything here. You just want to paste it in here, and that's it. Now, mind you, you want to make sure you test this out before you make this live to your customers, because the HTML editor here, even though it's rendering here, when you actually send it out in an email, you want to test to see what it looks like in an actual email, because it might not look like this. And then that's when you want to go back to ChatGPT and be like, hey, this is the code you gave me. It didn't work. This is the screenshot. You can give ChatGPT a screenshot, I believe. I pay for it. I don't know if you can on the free plan, but anyways, if you pasted a screenshot or you at least described to it that it didn't render the styling that it gave you, it will go ahead very quickly and make the necessary corrections. So those are the email templates. Once you've created those email templates, right, then you go ahead and you create that estimates preferences screen that I just showed you. Okay. So again, estimate preferences screen, you don't have to create it like this. It doesn't have to be in the exact same format like this. You can just pop this table anywhere you'd like. As long as it's related to the preferences method table, like I emphasized on, you should be good. And then you're just going to add those templates and you're going to set your days. That's it. You're set up. You're good to go. You've created your schedule that you can now manage at any point in time in the future. The next thing is you want to go to your estimate screen. And you're going to want to go into your estimate screen and you're going to want to create your toggle right here. And you're going to want to create logic that goes ahead and automatically inserts these dates for you. So let's go into the logic right now. So I'm going to go to my toggle and I'm going to briefly show you what the logic is. It doesn't have to be exactly like this, but this should give you good direction. Now, you'll see here, I have a retrieve and I'm pulling from my custom table that I just created, the estimate reminders table. And I'm saying, for this estimate, tell me if there's already reminders created in this table for this estimate. If there is already reminders and we've already tried to toggle, remember, this is running off of that toggle, this action set, okay? That's how we enter this editor. We went to the toggle, we went to the change action, and that means when you're clicking the toggle, this is what's going to run off of it. It's saying you cannot click off this toggle. This is a validation to say if there is a reminder that exists, the reminder count is greater than 0, right? We're doing a count in our retrieve right here. It's very important that you emphasize this, okay? Pause the screen if you need to understand this a little bit more. We're taking that count, which will always be an integer, and we're saying if it's greater than 0, which means there's reminders that were found for this estimate, we're going to show a message. You cannot disable reminders. That's it. We want to keep a log, okay? And we're going to keep the toggle set to yes. So if they try toggling it off, it's going to reset. It's going to go back to yes, and it's going to stop executing the next stage in our action set. So I'm calling a separate function that is hidden on screen, and this function is called start estimate reminder. If we go to this, it's grabbing that toggle and it's checking to see if it's true or false. So, and we're calling it is reminder. You can call it whatever you like. That's what I just called it. If it's enabled, so if it was set to true, if is reminder is equal to yes, there's also an option to say is true. Either one works. It doesn't matter. We're going to enter this conditional statement. So we're doing a conditional statement first. We're entering it now, and we're saying, I want you to get from the preferences method table the default estimate approval template that we set up. This was a part that I forgot to mention. Let's pivot away from here. Let's go to our estimates. You have an approval section already given to you from Method. So this will be on in your scenario. When you go in here, this is the email template that we're referring to right here. Set the email template to be used when sending an estimate that requires client approval. So we want to get that estimate template, and I'll tell you why. So let's go back to our logic. Where was I? Was I here? Yeah. So we're grabbing that template. Notice that my record ID is greater than 0. Why? Because there's only ever going to be one record in this table. For your preferences method table, there's only ever going to be one record. So you're going to it's always going to be 1. So I just say record ID greater than 0. I could have said here equal to 1. It's entirely up to you how you want to approach this. So we grab that email template, as you can see here. If you're not sure what the name of the email template is, when you go to the screen, right? So this one, email template for approvals, and we hit customize screen. Okay, let's go down. I think it's right here, enable approvals. Yes. So you're going to kind of have an idea just by reading the screen and looking at the labels that were created. and you're going to see email template for approvals. Set the email template to be used when sending an email that requires client approval. Okay, we're close. So now it's this one. It's right beside it, this drop down. What's the name of the field? It's called default email estimate approval. Let's not look at the caption. The caption will always be different. You want to look at the name, which is on top, the field name, okay? It's called default email estimate AP, which is probably approval. So if you go to your table, in your tables and fields, you should be able to track that field in there. Okay, that's how I knew that was the field that we needed. So going back here, I hope you guys are still with me. I know this is a long video, but I hope this helps. I'm trying to keep it as thorough as possible so that I'm able to guide you easily so that you can build this yourself. So now we got the template. Now we're going and we're checking to see if there was an email that was sent out already for that estimate approval. So let's go into this criteria. We're saying for this estimate record ID equals screen active record ID, because that's the screen that we're on. We're looking at the record ID of the estimate. We wanted to look at the email template, an activity that has this particular email template, which is that approval email template. Because if it does, that means that there was already approval sent for that estimate, the initial approval. We're saying, okay, grab me that record ID if you find it, and grab me the initial email sent date. That is important because we want to make sure, and I have to backtrack here because I know I said that we're running the reminders off of the time you toggle the reminders on. You could do it like that. For this particular use case, what we're doing is we're actually pre-populating those dates that you saw in the reminder schedule and the estimate off of the initial approval email that was sent to the customer. So right here, okay? So we're saying result initial email sent date. So when was that email sent? Then we're looping through our schedule, our preferences table, and we're doing a date function where we're grabbing the days after, that days after field. See, it says add days. We're going to set that to that custom field, days after field in our custom table. And we're taking that initial email sent date, which was that approval email that was initially sent, and we're adding that number of days after to output the next reminder, which we're calling results reminder date. And then we're inserting it into our estimate reminders table right here. And we're setting the activity record ID, okay? The activity record ID, I believe, this is the activity record ID that we're setting, it looks like, off of our initial email. So we're relating our initial email approval that was sent out to the customer back to the reminder records. Reason for this is because it's nice, because it's going to leave a trail in terms of, hey, this reminder is being generated off of this approval email that was sent. So now you have that insight. If you ever want to report on it in the future, you'll be able to see that connection. We're relating to the estimate because we want to make sure that the reminder is set for that particular estimate. We're setting the reminder type to email. As I said, there's also SMS, but for the sake of this video, we're keeping it to email. We're populating now that new reminder date that we've just created in the previous step. We're setting the status to not sent because we're not sending it just yet. And we're also inputting that status symbol, which we got off of Emojipedia, as you saw in the next tab. And then we're just populating the action result for the estimate reminder ID. So this is required as well for you. So again, we're looping through the reminder schedule, that preferences table. We're going through each one of those days after. We're grabbing that integer for 5 days after, 10 days after, 21 days after, and we're creating reminder records off of that, and we're adding that days after to the initial approval date to generate our new reminder date. Again, you don't have to do it like that. Another option that I've seen is that people just want the reminder date to be generated off of when they toggle on or on that reminder option from within the estimate. In that case, you wouldn't be using the initial email sent date. You would just be using the current date and time instead. Okay? Then finally, we're refreshing that reminder schedule. The reason why is because we've just inserted new records in there and we want to see those new records on the estimate. So we're refreshing it. Okay. I know that was a lot. Okay. We're already 40 minutes in. This is a long video, but I hope you're staying with me. If you want, pause this video, take a break, take a sip of water, pet your dog, say hi to your husband, whatever you got to do. Go for a walk, come back. We're almost done. Okay. All right. Now we hit close. So that was to start creating those reminders, right? So that's what you see here now. Okay. And this is the status. Now, the next step we got to do, we've generated the reminders. We've created the estimate preferences screen. We created the logic to create those reminders. We've created the email templates. What else do we got to do? We got to build the opt-out screen. Okay. The opt-out screen, and I'm not going to go into too much detail. It's very simple. You're going to go into your estimate screens area, and you're just going to create a new screen. And you're going to call it opt-out. Okay. I've already created one, so I'm just going to show you it. So guest opt-out, that's what I called it, because this is a portal screen. So I want to call it with the right name so that you can identify easily in the future if you ever need to troubleshoot and you want to know where your portal screens are. Always prefix it with guest. That's what Method does, and we want to be consistent with what Method does. Now, it's important here. When you create the screen, you want to go to security. And you want to check off both of these options. This is very, very, very important. Allow screen to be shared on portal. Allow guests to view screen without signing in. This has to be checked off in order for this to work. Now, to go into the screen, if I customize this, on top of the text label, you want to go into your screen properties, go to the screen focus action, because you want this to run every single time you enter the screen. And that's exactly what that action does. You're going to add one action here, which is the update field and table. And what you're going to do is you're going to go through the estimate reminders table, and you're going to find all the estimate reminders that are not sent related to this estimate. And you're going to update the status to canceled. All right. We're also going to track the contact record ID of who canceled, who opted out of the reminders. So you'll see you have this guest contact record ID. This is a session value that you can grab within the dropdown, and you can set it to the contacts record ID field on the estimate reminders table. This is that extra data insight that you can get to find out who opted out of the email. This is not necessary, but this is a nice to have. And this is the where clause, okay? So in case you want to look at this, pause this video, look at how this is set up, but this is exactly taking all the reminders for that estimate that are not sent status. Now, let's go into a quick demo where I'm going to show you a reminder email, and we're going to opt out of that reminder email and see what happens. So we're on our estimate. I'm just going to click this send opt-out button. What would happen is I created a button just for testing purposes, but in the real world scenario, you would receive it through the app routine. But because we're not waiting for an app routine to run, I'm just going ahead and I'm just clicking this button right here, and I'm waiting for the email to come in. As I see here, my email just came in. Let me bring it forward. Okay, so this is the email that we have. As you can see, it got sent. It's received to me. This is the reminder, exactly what we defined. I'm going to go ahead and just click acknowledge and opt out. And here you go. It says you've successfully opted out. You can close this window now. So great. This is done. Now, if we go back to our estimate, okay, you'll notice I've also exposed the status dropdown just because I want to show you exactly what the screen just did. If we hit refresh, it's gone ahead and it's canceled automatically all of these reminders. So now the next day that the scheduled app routine runs, it's not going to consider these anymore because they're in cancel status and the customer already opted out of it. We don't want them to receive any more reminders. This is crucially important. And this is something that I wanted to highlight with the opt-out screen that we need to include for this automation to work. Now, let's go into building out the text label on the opt-out screen, as well as showing you how the merge works for the opt-out screen within the email templates. Very simple. It's just a section within a section, 3 columns in that section. We're adding a section. Then we're adding a text label that says, successfully opted out. You can now close this window. You can close this window now. And the font type is title. So that is big giant text right in the center of the screen that stares at the customer. And this is going to be the screen that they are taken to when they click that opt out button on the email template. So just to connect the dots for you here, this is, if we go to your reminder, this is where we're going to connect the screen to this button. How do we do this? You go and you click the code view. You're going to see code right here. https://URL for portal.com. This string of text you're going to copy because you're going to refer to this in your action set when you're sending off emails. You're going to take the string of text. You're going to run a character function. You're going to do a replace where you're going to replace this string of text with a URL to that screen that we just created, and you're going to merge that URL that you just generated with the string of text. Okay. You'll also notice that there is, it's not URL for portal. This is the URL to view the estimate, which was that initial button. It's the URL for optout.com button. So I apologize. It's actually this value that you want to copy. I mean, it could be any value, but this is the value I use. You can call it https :// I like dandelions.com for all I care. It doesn't matter, but this is what I use. So that's that. So that's a URL for this button and a URL for this button. So that when they click it, it's taking them to that pertaining screen. Now we're going to go into the final step, which is creating your scheduled app routine. So now to get to your app routines, you're going to go back to your dashboard. You're going to click the ellipses icon. You're going to go to manage. And then you're going to see this app routines area right here. You're going to click app routines. I called it estimate reminder system right here. This is the app routine I created. You're just going to create a new one. So you're just going to click new routine. You can call it estimate reminder system. You can call it whatever you'd like. Okay. But this is how you're going to begin creating your app routine. You're going to hit save, and it's going to take you to a screen like this. You're not going to add any inputs. We don't need any inputs, nor are you going to get any outputs. We're not going to do any outputs. Okay. Now, this is automatically going to default to active, right? But it's not actually active. There's a step that you have to do before you make it live. But first, you're going to click this edit draft actions. It's going to take you to the action editor. I'm going to walk you briefly through each of these actions. So let me move myself over here so you can see this. And let me zoom in a little bit more. So there's a total of 25 actions here. Okay. And let me actually comment this. I don't know why I didn't do that. Failed to send reminder activity log. Okay. Okay. Starting from the top. So we're grabbing the day of year, the current date and time. So we're returning the current day. So again, remember, we got to visualize. This app routine is going to run every single day at midnight. It's going to look and loop through each one of those reminders that we pre-populated on the estimates that we saw with those particular dates that we saw. It's going to take those particular dates and it's going to compare it to the current date and time of when the scheduled app routine is running. So we're going to take the day of year, we're taking the current date of time, and we're getting the current day of year. Why did I get the day of year? Because this is an easy way to compare two dates and to see if these two dates are on the same day. The reason why I'm not just taking the date stamp and I'm just comparing the two is because it also associates with a timestamp, which we want to ignore. Now, there's another way of doing this where we could have just simply formatted the date, right? So we could have just done this, format date, and we could have done current date of time, and we could have just formatted the date to this, and then we could have formatted the date on the reminder schedule too, so that the formats are the same and just compared the dates. But I like this option better. It's just my preference. So I like to do day of year. What this does is it gives you the actual number day of year. So 365 days in the year. Today is March 15th. Today is the 76th day of the year. So we're just taking the number of days into the year. Okay. Now we're looping through the estimate reminders table, and we're only looking at estimate reminders that are not sent. We do not want to go through estimates that are already sent or have been canceled, because we don't want to resend those reminders. So only the ones that are queued up to be sent. Then we're doing a date function. We're taking that reminder date now. So the reminder date we're grabbing within this loop, reminder date, and we're doing the same function that we did with the current date out here. And we're getting the day of year to check and compare. Today is the 76th day. Is the reminder date that's set for this reminder log that's on this estimate also the 76th day? If it is, we want to send out the reminder. So that's what we're doing here. We're saying if the current day of year is equal to the reminder date of year, we're going to enter in and we're going to grab now all the email template information, and we're going to start merging all the information into our email templates dynamically, send off the email, and then log the email as well so that we have a record. Then we're going to also update the status. So let's walk you through it. So we're grabbing the initial approval email sent date. All right. Now, how did I get this? The reason why I got this is, remember, we stored the initial activity that was sent out to the customer when they first were sent the estimate for them to review, right? There was an activity that was logged for that email. We grabbed that activity and we related it back to the estimate reminders table. So let me go back. Let me just show you what I mean if you're still not understanding. We're going to go tables and fields, estimate reminders. This activity, okay, we created a linked field. Now, I have another video for linked fields also in my channel. Feel free to check that out if you don't understand what linked fields are. But this is very important. We're doing field type linked. We're grabbing it off of the activity that we just, the drop down, the activity drop down that we just related. We're grabbing the due date start. That is the date of when the initial approval email was sent out. All right. And that just becomes a new field on our estimate reminders table, activity due date start. So if we go back to our app routine, we're grabbing that activity due date start and we're putting it in a variable, in an action result initial approval email sent date. Then we're grabbing the estimate record ID for the estimate that the estimate reminder is related to. We're also grabbing who the sales rep is that is assigned to the estimate, as well as who the customer is assigned as the estimate. Okay. Then we're going in and we're retrieving the contact information related to that customer on the estimate. Now, there's many ways of doing this. The way I did it for the sake of this video is I'm just grabbing the primary contact that's associated to the customer. Primary contacts are available in both QuickBooks and Method. So if you created a customer in QuickBooks, you're going to have a primary contact. QuickBooks automatically creates a primary contact for you. We're just grabbing that information. That is also being synced to Method. So we're grabbing that information. We're getting the contact record ID. We're getting their email, their phone number, and their name. All this information, we're getting that contact details for the activity log that we're going to log after the email is sent. We're also getting the from details because we want this email when the customer receives it, we want it to be from the sales rep that was assigned to that estimate. So we're grabbing that estimate, we're grabbing the ID here, the sales rep ID here, right? We're going in and we're saying, get the users from the users table, get the record ID that is equal to the assigned to ID, which is the ID of the sales rep or the user in Method. We're getting their email, which is their email from, as well as their name, their username. We're calling it email from name. Okay. And we're going to use that when we send the email. Then we're getting the to details. So the to details is who we're going to send the email to. Again, many ways for you to do this. You can go through the customers table similarly to what I did like this if you wanted to. But because I always wanted to make sure to increase the probability that there's always going to be an email available for your customers, there is a separate email field on the customer table that QuickBooks and Method both have. We're syncing from QuickBooks this email field. And this is probably the highest probability of you getting an email from this, because it's most likely going to be the one that's populated the most consistently. So I'm grabbing the email. I'm getting customer email, customer first name, customer last name. Okay, so this is the two details. So we got the from details and the two details. Now we're doing how many days after. We're getting the initial approval email sent date from this date and time. So we're subtracting, we're doing a date difference, right? So we're saying take the initial email sent date and subtract it from the current date of time and return for me the number of days. And we're going to store it in this days after variable. Okay. Then we're going back to our reminder schedule. And the reason why we do this is because we want to go back to our preferences table and find and locate the email template that we need to use for that many number of days after. So you'll see days after equals the days after here. If there's a match, if it finds it, it's going to grab the email template for it, which is perfect because we want to make sure we're sending the right email template. Then we're going to our email template table. We're taking that email template ID that we just got. We're comparing it to the record ID is equal to record ID of the email template table because we want that template information. We're grabbing the subject and the body. Okay. This is where we start merging. So you'll notice the character functions for replace merge fields. We have email subject. We're going to merge the customer information into the email subject, and we're going to use the customer ID, and then we're going to put it back into the email subject. It's very important that you do this. So we're taking the original email subject that we just grabbed, we're merging the customer information using the customer record ID, and we're storing it back into the email subject. This is how the replace merge fields works. All right. We're doing the same thing for body. We're doing the same thing for the estimate information. You see, we're taking the estimate record ID, which we originally stored earlier on in this app routine. We're also doing it for the body. So you'll notice I'm doing the merging for both the subject and body. Now, you may not have the merge field set up for estimates, customers, as what you just saw right here. It's still good to do this. It's not going to break your automation if it doesn't find it. But it's good to set this up in case you have that foresight that in the future, yeah, I might actually add customer information to the subject line. I don't right now, but I might do it in the future. So let me set this up now. So that way I don't have to worry or remember to have to go back into here and set up the merge logic for it later on. Then we go and we do the company information. So the company we're merging into the body. Okay. Then we're creating our URLs. So those two buttons, we're creating URLs now so that when they click those buttons, they're going to the right page that relates to them in Method, the portal area. We're choosing guest user because they are a contact in Method, so they are a guest. We're putting their contact record ID. It's asking for the specific guest contact record ID. We're grabbing their contact ID. As you can see, we got it from here, the specific primary contact. We got the contact ID here, right? We're specifying the ID. We're specifying the screen. So this is a standard out-of-the-box screen. You don't have to do anything here. All you have to do is point it to the screen, the guest view estimate screen. Then we're setting it to the estimate so that when they view the estimate, they're looking at the right estimate that was assigned to them. So we're setting it to the estimate record ID, and then we're putting it in a variable called view estimate URL. So we're getting the URL for the estimate. Now for the opt-out screen, same exact steps. We're doing guest user, contact ID, estimates. We're setting it to the guest opt-out screen that we just created. That screen, very important, I forgot to mention this. When you're creating that screen, the table you want to create off of is the estimates table. And I believe by default, because you're creating the screen from within the estimates app, it's automatically going to be set to the estimates table and you cannot change it. All right. So you're going to set it to the estimate record ID, that screen, because that's what the table of the screen is based off of, is the estimate. So you want to set it to that particular estimates record ID. Then we're setting it, we're storing it into a variable result opt-out URL. All right. So we're grabbing the URL now for that. And now we're doing a replace. So we're not doing a replace merge fields. Replace merge fields are specifically to merge fields from estimate tables, but we're not merging a URL off of an estimate table. This is just a string of text. It's not stored anywhere in any of the method tables. So because of that, we have to not do a replace merge field. We have to just do a replace because it's just a string of text, not stored anywhere. We're going to replace it within the email body because that's where it is. we're grabbing the URL for portal, which I showed you earlier on in this video, and we're replacing it now with that URL that we just created. And we're storing this back into the email body, okay? Same thing for the URL, the opt-out URL. Same exact thing, okay? Then we're checking to see if the customer email is not empty, because we don't want this logic to error out if it doesn't find an email, because it needs an email to be sent out. And if you don't have a conditional statement or some sort of validation to say, only send out emails if the customer email is found. If you don't have that, your app routine is going to break, and then you're going to have to go back and fix it. So then you're saying if the customer email is not empty, we're going to send the email. So here we go. We got email from name. These are all variables that we stored earlier on in our video. If you don't remember where, rewind the video, go back. You'll know exactly where we stored it. Email from, that's going to be the sender email address. Sender's name is email from name. So this is the name of the sales rep that we grabbed. Contact ID is that primary contact that we said we're going to grab from QuickBooks. Customer email is the email that we're also grabbing from QuickBooks for that customer. Then we're putting the email subject and email body. We're setting the email type to transactional. It's not an email campaign. This is strictly a transactional email. It's a reminder, okay? So we're setting it as transactional. And then after this, we are logging the email itself. Now, for some reason, these are not all the fields. My demo account is broken for whatever reason. It's not, oh, now it's showing me everything. It wasn't showing me everything before. But what I did was, I'll grab the screenshot that I have. Just bear with me a moment. Where is it? Is it this? No, that's not it. Sorry, bear with me one moment. Interesting. I had a screenshot. Anyways, I had a screenshot. Let's just go through it together. Don't worry about that. I'll go through everything. So you're going to want to fill out all of these fields in your activity. Due date start, due date end, current date and time each. Just copy these. Email body, email subject. We're storing the email body and subject to our activity so that we can see the email body and subject if we ever want to open the activity log in the future in Method. Email to, email from name. We also want to do entity. We also want to do contacts. And let me move myself. We also want to do contact email, contact name. You want to make this activity log as filled as possible. The more information, the better. And we're going to set our entity record ID. So our entity record ID is going to be our customer record ID. Our contacts record ID is our contact ID. Then remember, we grabbed their contact email from the primary contact and we put all their contact details in variables. We're just putting them and storing them here. Okay. That was one of the earlier steps that we did in this routine. What am I missing? Status. Status, we're going to set to completed because it's just an email log. So an email log will always be completed by default. Type, because this was an email outgoing of the reminder, we want to set this activity type also to email outgoing. These are all standard values that Method offers you out of the box. Let's see what else. Is there anything else we're missing? I mean, you could add a comment if you want. So you can go in and you can put comments and say, this is an estimate reminder email log. You don't have to do this, but this is something you could do if you wanted to. What else? If there was an email BCC and CC, you would store them here as well if you wanted to, but we didn't for our use case. Assigned to. So this is going to be assigned to the sales rep, the from. Okay, so we're going to say assigned to ID. So we want to assign this activity to the estimate, which we haven't done here as well. So let's do that. Estimate. estimate record ID. We want to assign it to the sales rep that's assigned to the estimate. We want to assign it to the contact and the customer. So these are all important areas that you need to populate in order for the activity to show you the data in the correct context. Email template. We definitely want to populate this. This is going to show us exactly which reminder template we used. Okay. I think that's it. I think we're good to go. Yeah, we're good to go. That's it. And then we have to populate a variable. So I call this result activity record ID. This is all the details of the activity log that you need to populate. Again, comments is optional. You don't need to have this. You can even just remove this if you want. If you want, pause the screen, refer to this even more as you're creating this on your end. But this is what you want to have as your activity log. Now we're almost done. Next thing we want to do is, and I'm just going to move myself up here, estimate reminders. Now that we've sent out the reminder, we want to update the status of that reminder. Remember, our app routine is, all this is contained within one massive loop of our estimate reminders. Remember, we're looping through all the not sent estimate reminders, right? Now we want to update that not sent to sent. And we're setting the status to the symbol. Again, got this from Mojopedia. You don't have to do this. This is just something extra that I did. You could just have this one field that you're updating, just the sent dropdown. Now, if the customer email is empty, right? We want to still log that the reminder wasn't sent, right? So we're going to say, hey, let's log an activity to tell us that we tried to send a reminder, but because we didn't find a customer email, we couldn't. So we want to log that activity so you have that history and you know what went wrong. So right here, this is where you'd want to use comments. So we're saying failed estimate reminder due to missing customer email. And again, we're missing a bunch of information here because at the time of when I was setting this up for this video, this information wasn't here. But we definitely want to do the exact same thing that we did here. Make sure you fill out all the details like you see here. Fill it out here as well. We want to get full information as to who the customer was, which estimate it was off of, which email template it was. We want all the information as to what was failed. Okay? Now, I did not update the status to canceled. I didn't. I could have done that. All right. But for the sake of this example, I didn't. And maybe I should have. This is all the little intricacies that are going to vary between each one of you different viewers that are watching this video. You're going to have subtle changes between, you guys might have the preference that you like that it didn't send, but it's still set to not sent because you want it to send in the future. Okay. Or maybe you don't want it to send in the future. And because there was no customer email, you just want to terminate the reminder system altogether. For our use case, we still want the reminder system to work if we decide to enter an email for that customer in the future. But there is a blowback to that. If the estimate was already, no, we actually do a check though. We do a check to make sure that the estimate has not been accepted, right? So we want to make sure that if that's the case, and I think I actually have logic. So let me show you that. That's actually the last piece. So great that I even thought about this. It's important that when the estimate is accepted from the portal, that if there are any reminders that were set to it, that you're just simply updating those to canceled, and that's it. Because we never want to send a reminder to someone that already accepted or canceled an estimate. So where we would go see that is in your portal. So you go to manage and you would go to guest view estimate. All right. Now this I didn't customize for the sake of this video, but I'll just point you to the right direction. When you go down here in your guest view estimate screen and you go to signature and you go to this accept area right here. Okay. When you go to this accept estimate, all right, you want to have your logic here. And I don't have it here because I didn't set it up for this demo video, so I apologize. But this is the final step. When your customers accept the estimate in the portal, you want to add logic here to say, okay, let's go and run a check, right? And I can't do it here because it's not editable, okay? But you're going to want to do and run a check to see if there's any estimate reminders set for that estimate. If you find, as remember the count, if you find a count greater than 0, you're going to want to go into it. You're going to do an update fields and table. And you know what? Let me just do it. I'm not doing all this hard work and explaining all this stuff, and I'm not going to even finish this off well. Yusuf, you got to finish strong, man. Finish strong. You start strong, you finish strong. Sorry, guys. I'm just a little hyped up. I'm also lack of sleep because I have a newborn and I'm up until 4 a.m. every day. So apologize if that freaked you out a little bit. Okay, so accept estimate in this function, right? You're going to go ahead and you're going to check to say, are you sure? So first it's asking you, are you sure you want to accept this estimate? If they click OK, it's important you place this properly in here. You're going to want to place this after the show message. You're going to say, okay, great. Let's do a retrieve. We're going to retrieve in our estimate reminders table. Let me move this on this side. And we're going to say record ID. Estimate record ID is equal to screen active record ID. How do I know that? Because we're looking at the estimate screen in the portal, and the screen active record ID is the estimate record ID because we're looking at the estimate in the portal. Okay. Again, if you don't understand screen active record IDs yet, I have a separate video that you can watch in my channel as well, and I'll link it down below. Okay, so we're gonna do account, and we're gonna do record ID, and let's do account, and let's also add another thing here. We're gonna say count where the status is equal to not sent. We only want to look at not sent reminders for this estimate. We're going to do a count, and then we're going to say result reminder not sent count. Okay, if we find it, you should comment. I'm not commenting because I'm trying to keep this video as short as possible. Keep your attentions close. Reminder not sent count, if it's greater than 0, so that means we did find reminders that are not sent for this estimate. Okay, we're going to update this. We're going to do within our conditional statement. So if not sent reminders found, we're going to update our estimate reminders. Very important here for this estimate. So we're saying screen active record ID, and we're going to say status not sent. Not sent. We're going to update this status to canceled. That's it. Update status to canceled. And let me just add a comment here. Why not? Might as well. Check to see if not sent reminders queued up for this estimate. Okay, so again, another review. We're doing a retrieve, estimate reminders. Estimate equals session active record ID, status equals not sent. We're doing a count. We're storing that count in a variable. We're comparing that count, and we're saying in our conditional statement afterwards, if this count is greater than 0, which means did we find not sent reminders? If we did, we're going to update all of those reminders that were not sent for this estimate. All right, we're going to update them to canceled. That way, when the app routine that's scheduled daily, which is our last step that we're going to go into now, which is scheduled daily, it's not going to even look at these because these are not in the not sent status anymore. That app routine is only looking at not sent reminders for that day. Okay, so now let's go back. Okay, so that was the last step. Let's go back into our app routine. Okay, how do we go back to our app routine? We go into manage for our estimates. So we go estimates, manage, right? App routines, estimate reminder system. All we're going to do here is we're going to click this more actions down button here, and we're going to publish this. We're going to say publish draft. Okay. Now it's published. It's live, but we haven't set a schedule for it, which means this app routine is not going to do anything because the only way you can use this now is if you call it manually from a button, which you're not going to do every day. So we want to put a schedule on it. So now we're going to go back to more actions. We're going to click schedule, and we're going to set this schedule to daily, and we're going to set it to, I like to do 2 to 4. I think that's kind of like the complete dead time on Method servers where there's not a lot of customers logged on. That's ideal. You want this, all your scheduled app routines, you want them to be run during off periods. And we're going to hit save. Now, you have these options to do every weekday at a certain time. So if you don't want it to run on the weekends, you don't have to. If you want it weekly on Monday, these are all these different options. For us, we're just going to run it daily from the 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. block. This is set to your time zone, UTC time zone, which is a universal time zone. So this is going to know what time zone you're in, and it's going to basically run this based off of the time zone you're in. If you're not sure what time zone you've set for yourself, you can go to your user profile right here. Your time zone is set here. I'm in Eastern Time, Canada, as I am based in Toronto, Canada. That is it, guys. This was over an hour video. This was a real deep dive, but I really wanted to do this because this was a very common ask that a lot of business owners want that they can't do in QuickBooks now. But now through Method, you now have automatic estimate reminders for all of your customers that goes and it runs a check every day to see if there is a reminder needs to be sent for any reminders that were not accepted. If you have any questions, feel free to go to my website as well as email me. Both will be down in the description below. If you really enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace!